Alright. So, you said you had a problem, Cherry. I figured that, since Cherry's been complaining all day, maybe we should as our last thing that we discussed before this meeting ends, we should figure out what's happening to her. Alright. Alrighty, Cherry, we'll listen to what's going on, what you need, but still, I do think we should imply what I was discussing just mere minutes ago. It would be a good system, Freddy, but still, I don't know if it goes wrong, it could crash our economy. True, but if it's successful, it could raise our economy so high we can compete with other giant nations like Florida and the United Caribbean, the USC, or the USA, which, remember, still exists in Hawaii and all their Pacific holdings, which became states. Hawaii's decent land, and they have a lot of random islands all over the place, so their economy's not horrible, but, if we could do this system right, we could make our economy a lot stronger. After all, it is said that right now we are the most potentially failed nation, and I think it'd be a really great idea. Honestly, I have to agree with Freddy. Even though it's risky, it has to be done. Otherwise, our economy's just gonna slowly rise. And if it doesn't rise fast enough, we could potentially just get destroyed by Florida. Which, remember, is not only our neighbors up north, but they are our main rival as of right now. We still have an alliance with them, but we're constantly competing with them in things. And we're the underdog in this situation. If we don't do this, there's no hope that we can stand up to Florida. Fine. Alright, I'll consider the idea, but I don't think it's the best idea right now. Anyway, sorry. Cherry, what's your problem? Okay. So, I know that Texas is divided into two states, one ruled by you, Freddy, and one ruled by me, Cherry. But, however, I cannot get my economy stable. So, what you're basically saying is that you're suffering from an economical crash. Yes. Why is that? Well, since every single person... Let me rephrase this sentence. Since most of our male population between the ages of 18 and 50 were drafted into war, since, it was taken over by a rebellion, and most of them died, we can't get our economy back up. Since there's not a lot of jobs, and most of the women don't want to take them. Of course, we can still exist, but we're going to suffer from an economical crash, and maybe even a full-blown civil war. And it can happen. It's not likely, but it can happen. A complete collapse, descending into anarchy. Really? You didn't bring this up at the beginning of the meeting? No. Because I figured y'all had other stuff that you wanted to discuss. And once I realized that, I tried to talk, but, y'all didn't let me. Well, you should have just said, hey, I want to talk about my economy collapsing and the chance of me going into complete anarchy. That's more important. Even if it seems like that we're distracted with other things, sometimes you just gotta say it. And we'll listen. We'll shut up and listen. Okay, but do you have any ideas on what to do? If you lost most of your male population, then, you know what you gotta do. But, Freddy, it's a bit risky. It could unbalance things. Is it as risky as my economical plan? No. I think you should do it. I think you gotta let in immigrants. Well, yeah, I guess so. Alright. We send them through somewhat of a test, but once they're turned into Texas citizens, they're allowed in. Why don't you just adopt our policy? I don't know. I feel like that I may unbalance our population in the wrong way and end up in civil war, which we just went through. Remember, civil wars and revolutions, even failed, are very costly. Tell me about it. Our fighting ground force going up against the revolutionary troops, not that weird-minded god in power. Those guys were tough to fight. But eventually, when we ourselves won, we managed to break through their troops swiftly. And then we ended the war shortly thereafter. Which, by the way, was all my work. Y'all were resting. I was helping out the army. Yes, I know, Jolteon. But listen. You gotta do it, Cherry. You gotta adopt our policy for immigrations, and you just gotta let them in. What if they're not male? Because we need more people to fill up the jobs. And if they're not male, oh well. You can't deny people if they're not a male. You gotta let, like we do, you gotta let every man, woman, and child in. No matter what. Besides, if you lost, how many people did you lose, Cherry? Well, seeing as our population is about 500,000, and we lost more than Paraguay did, more than half of our male population, and around 150,000 people. That put us around, the people leaving was around 50,000, so we lost about 200,000 people. Good chunk of them were male. How much of your male population did you lose? I think I lost around 80% of our male population. Wow. Well, that's not good. You should have opened up with that and not closed with that. Okay, what else do you suggest? Well, you kind of gotta in some way force people to work. Our immigration policy says that within 5 years you must have a house. You must have at least a job, or else you're just thrown into the army. I believe, right? That's our standard. Yes. If you don't have a job within 7 years of you becoming a Texas citizen, you get drafted for the army. It's a bit harsh, but it also works, kind of. Now, of course, there are some leniencies, like if you are disabled and those things, we allow extra time and certain other things, but typically, a normal person has around 7 years to find a job. And 7 years is a long time. But not only does it make sure that our army, has people in it, but also is a great deterrent. It keeps homeless people off the street and either at a job or in the army. Of course, if you manage to find a job while you're in the army, once you finish up that year of service, you can go return. We're not monsters, We also can provide free housing, somewhat limitedly. You know, a good chunk of the time it's just you're on your own, but sometimes in special cases we give people free housing till they find a job, and then you slowly but surely start paying for the house. You know? And it works. Basically, I kind of gotta force people into jobs. Yes, but you also gotta get your birth rate up. Because right now, currently, your birth rate is actually just, like, not good. It's not the worst, you know. Right now, Japan, for instance. Currently, China right now is not really an empire. Somehow, Asia stayed mostly intact. Japan and, well, China and a good chunk of Southeast Asia, you know what they all have? Very, very low birth rate. Japan is the worst, with them actually losing people every year. They started the beginning of the 20th century with like 70 million. Now at their peak, they reached 150 million. But ever since that peak, they've been going down and down and down. Now they only have like 50 million. That's a huge drop off. They lost half of their people under 40 years. That's just horrible. I don't know what's going on over there, but besides the point, you gotta institute policies to get birth rate up. You gotta start allowing immigrants in after they go through, you know, like checkpoints and all that stuff. And then you gotta just draft people for jobs. It's not the best situation, but if you lose more than 80% of your male population, you know, that's not good. Okay. I think that's all. Okay. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about before we end this meeting? I do. Okay, Meta Knight, let's hear. What's on your agenda? Well, our war in Mexico went smoothly, but you know what we still are? We are still what? We're still landlocked. Our border with Mexico is absolutely terrible. Well, the sheer shock united all of Mexico under one flag to defend, which is not something we prepared for. And they even managed to sign negotiated peace with, you know, the USC, which had also invaded them, which we again weren't ready for. So we couldn't get any coastal territory. I think what we gotta do is we gotta get to coast now. Mexico's border looks pretty ugly, losing most of Central America to the UAC and losing a good chunk of their mainland. Well, apart from coast, to us. I think what we gotta do is just roll through what remains. We can't do that yet. And why would that be? Because right now, world tension's very high. Florida's been squaring off of a good chunk of Europe. You know, seeing as Florida is basically the only great power left after the devastating wars that the others went through to just get the land they have now. So right now, really, Florida is the only great power, and probably a superpower. But they've shown that their army, especially, is not as good as some of the others. Of course, their economy's huge. Nobody can rival it. Even their main threats, such as like China or a good chunk of the European empires, all of them combined is barely half of what Florida's economy is. Somehow they managed to use not only all of America's territory, what was once the USA's territory, which is already very good, but they managed to industrialize Canada as well, which is a feat, mind you, that probably cost billions. But it made their economy so huge that no one can rival it. Their army, however, is not good. They have, their men are good, but their technology is outdated. So, they're the best in economy, but they're not good in, army, military. But, however, that's besides the point. World tension's at an all-time high. And you, even still, with Florida's embarrassing army, they can still pack a punch. And right now, we are, very close to Florida. And you know what they're gonna do? What? They're going to be monitoring us. We invaded Mexico, and we basically cut them off. Of course, they can still get territory if they wanted, but they realize now that we could do a lot. And they're starting to eye us with suspicion. And for the record, we do have a coastline. It's just, we didn't get all that we wanted to. We do have a coastline. Yes, since I monitored the peace deal in the following days after, what happened was we gained Baja California and the connecting territories to us, along with some minor coasts along the Bay of Baja or something like that. And of course we got a good chunk of the Mexican desert, which is not good, but also we got very close to Mexico City. So if in a follow-up where we can grab their capital within days, it's not the worst thing. All in all, now with all of our new territories that we still have to assimilate, but it's not that they're going to rise up for now. We have around 10 million people, which isn't bad. Actually, I think it's 15. Not horrible. But we also got to divide up the Mexico territory. Okay. So, how about we save that for next meeting? Since it's, yeah. Okay. So, our topic for the next meeting will be the division of Mexico and the progress and more ideas for how to fix the South Texas economy. And also, we should make battle plans in case of a invasion of Florida. Okay? Alright, meeting adjourned. Well, that was interesting. Alright, we should probably talk a little bit. Alright, I'm gonna go. What are they doing over here? What are who doing? Oh. Funny enough, I think down there it's 2 boys and 2 girls. Because Glaceon's a boy and Espion's a boy, right? I think so, yeah. And then Sylvia and Vaporeon are girls. So technically right now, we got 3 girls and 3 boys. And it actually shows still, because if Flareon and Leafeon arrive, then that is, 4 boys, 4 girls. It all depends on what Espeon is, because she herself still doesn't know, I believe. Okay, but I wonder what they're talking about down there. I don't know, but we're gonna kind of just watch, I guess. Or should we go jump in and talk with them? I don't know. I think we should kind of wait a bit. Because, we don't know what they're talking about. I guess you're right. We don't know what they're talking about.